Welcome to DebtCircle Key Roundups. I am Vijendra.
And I am Leela.
We have some fascinating topics lined up for you. First, why MSMEs are being called India's second growth engine, as highlighted by Manji, then the major move by All Cargo acquiring a 25% stake in group services for a staggering rupees 3 crore 53 lakh and 40,000. And finally, we'll analyze the recent weakness in Indian bonds as oil prices approach $80, with CPI data also taking center stage. It's going to be an insightful episode, so stay tuned.
Let's start with MSMEs. Micro, small and medium enterprises contribute 31.1% to India's gross domestic product, making them the second growth engine after agriculture. In Puducherry, skill-based training is enhancing workforce productivity, and banks must offer collateral-free loans up to 1 lakh rupees with interest rates at least 5% lower than other commercial loans, easing financial pressure so MSMEs can sustain operations and compete effectively.
Moving to our next story, All Cargo Global Limited acquired a 25% stake in All Cargo Group Services Private Limited for rupees 3 crore 53 lakh and 40,000 on July 8, 2026, aiming to centralize shared services and streamline cost allocation across the group. This related party transaction, completed without regulatory approvals, positions All Cargo Group Services as a shared services hub, with the purchase involving 2 equity shares priced at rupees 1,76,840 each, and a face value of rupees 10 per share, approved by the board on May 25, 2026.
Given the target's nil turnover, the focus is clearly on creating a center of excellence for operational support. Moving to our next story, Indian government bonds weakened as the 10-year benchmark yield rose to 6.7368%, up nearly 2 basis points, triggered by escalating Brent crude prices nearing $80 per barrel amid Iran's expanded military actions and the Strait of Hormuz closure, adding pressure on bond markets and investor caution.
Domestic inflation is a key focus too, with consumer price inflation expected above 4% for the first time in over 15 months, driven by rising fuel costs and supply chain disruptions linked to the West Asia conflict. Despite this volatility, foreign investment under the fully accessible route has exceeded $4 billion, showing sustained international confidence in Indian government bonds.
Let's look at another key development. The government is addressing the drop in foreign exchange reserves from approximately $728 billion in February to nearly $682 billion by May, planning to boost inflows via foreign currency non-resident bank deposits, overseas foreign currency bonds, and external commercial borrowings, all aimed at stabilizing the rupee amid rising crude oil prices and capital outflows.
FCNRB deposits eliminate exchange rate risk for non-resident Indians, directly increasing foreign currency holdings, while overseas bonds and external borrowings bring additional foreign currency into India's financial system. Together, these measures aim to ease rupee pressure and support economic growth in a difficult global environment.
Now, let's discuss another important development. IIFL Finance raised $300 million through senior secured notes at 7.60% interest, maturing in 4 years on July 10, 2030. These notes, rated B+ by Standard & Poor's and Fitch and Ba3 by Moody's, are secured by a first-ranking charge on all receivables and assets, with semi-annual interest payments starting January 10, 2027, and listing on India International Exchange and NSE IFSC to enhance liquidity.
Moving to our next story, Ugro Capital raised rupees 19 crore and 15 lakhs through commercial papers with a tenure of 6 months maturing on January 6, 2027, with Yes Bank Limited acting as the issue and paying agent. Each paper has a face value of rupees 5 lakh, issued at rupees 4,78,751.50, with a redemption value at maturity of rupees 20 crore.
Now let's discuss another important development. The Reserve Bank of India now mandates Indian firms to disclose detailed anti-money laundering checks and financial data on their overseas joint ventures and subsidiaries, as overseas direct investments surged to $34 billion in fiscal year 2025 to 2026, nearly triple the amount 5 years ago. The RBI probes dividends, loan interest, and capital write-offs overseas to prevent round-tripping or fund siphoning.
Let's look at another key development. The benchmark yield on the Indian government's 6.94% bond maturing in 2036 fell sharply by 3.8 basis points to 6.7139%, its biggest one-day drop since early July, driven by softer oil prices and strong foreign inflows nearing $4 billion since early June, boosted by expectations of India's inclusion in the Bloomberg Global Aggregate Index.
Moving to our next story, Tata Capital is acquiring an 88.6% stake in Yogakshemam Loans Limited by investing approximately 93 crores rupees, entering the gold loan sector valued at $3.8 billion in 2025 and expanding at a compound annual growth rate of 3.61% through 2034. Yogakshemam operates 162 branches with assets under management of 708 crores, serving 32,000 customers.
Now, let's discuss another important development. Bank of Maharashtra's first quarter net profit rose by 26.8% year-on-year to rupees 2020 crores, driven by a 14.5% increase in net interest income to rupees 3,770 crores, with gross non-performing assets holding flat at 1.45% quarter-on-quarter. Operating profit improved by 21.3% to rupees 3,117 crores.
Let's move on to our next article. Bharti Airtel has invested over 3,30,000 crores in digital infrastructure over the past 10 years, positioning itself to lead the 5G economy, now expanding into financial services with 20,000 crores committed to Airtel Money, while scaling data centers to 1 gigawatt of capacity and securing over 24 sovereign cloud deals in fiscal year 2026.
Now, let's discuss another important development. Fedbank Financial Services will hold its first quarter results call on July 15, 2026 at 1:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, with global access via toll-free numbers for the USA, United Kingdom, Singapore and Hong Kong, broadening participation for international stakeholders.
Now let's discuss another important development. Gold futures on the multi-commodity exchange for August dropped by 1.16% to rupees 1,41,820 per 10 grams, while silver for September fell 2.34% to rupees 2,17,448 per kilogram, driven by a 4% crude oil price jump that boosted the US dollar index by nearly 0.30% to 101.22.
Analysts predict ongoing volatility, with support on MCX gold near rupees 1,42,400 and resistance at rupees 1,45,550. Now, let's discuss another important development. India's foreign exchange reserves rose by $7.26 billion to $674.19 billion by July 3, 2026, with foreign currency assets increasing by $4.51 billion and gold reserves climbing by $2.669 billion.
Let's look at another key development. Share Power Finance Corporation has priced $300 million in floating rate notes due in 2029, paying a coupon linked to the overnight secured overnight financing rate plus 1.10% per annum, with settlement on July 16, 2026 and listing on NSE IFSC and India INX.
Moving to our next story, Indian banks now focus on foreign currency non-resident bank deposits above $1 million due to rising overseas funding costs, with fresh FCNR inflows at $166 million in April 2026 and outstanding deposits at $33.92 billion. Experts warn rising global rates could cut returns from 14% to as low as 5 to 6%, making these inflows short-term and volatile.
Let's look at another key development. Piramal Finance plans to increase its retail lending to 75% of its portfolio by fiscal year end, up from 70% now, with last quarter's net profit at 137 crores and managing wholesale asset recoveries remaining critical for valuation. Here's another significant update. The US-Iran ceasefire collapse has driven energy and commodity prices up, hitting India's 80 million MSMEs hard, and the government's Emergency Credit Line Guarantee Scheme 5.0 is providing rupees 2.55 trillion in credit, with over rupees 1.55 trillion already disbursed.
Moving to our next story, the Finance Ministry has asked state-run banks to integrate the Jan Samarth portal with their lending systems to speed up loan dispersals, addressing a rejection rate of 43.2% in fiscal year 2026, even as loan sanctions through the portal more than tripled to approximately 13.1 million. Now let's discuss another important development. Blacksoil is acquiring CreditFair's solar financing business, adding rupees 152.6 crores in assets under management and expanding its reach across more than 20 states.
Now let's discuss another important development. MTNL missed the pre-funding of the escrow account for its 7.59% bond series 8A due July 20, 2026, citing cash shortages, though bondholders remain protected by a sovereign guarantee from the Government of India. Let's move on to our next article. Central Depository Services India Limited has secured approval to invest 20 crores in India International Bullion Holding (IFSC) Limited, with the first tranche of 10 crores planned by August 2026.
Here's another significant update. IREDA has declared Gensol Engineering Limited and its subsidiary Gensol EV Lease Limited accounts fraudulent, with exposure of Rs 453.77 crores for Gensol Engineering and Rs 218.97 crores for the subsidiary, and IREDA has already provisioned 85% of these amounts by March 31st, 2026.
Now let's discuss another important development. India's electric vehicle market is set to expand 12-fold, reaching 30.4 million units by 2032, with battery demand growing from 13 gigawatt-hours in 2024 to 19 gigawatt-hours in 2025, and the component market projected to grow from 41,000 crores in 2025 to 302,000 crores by 2032.
Let's look at another key development. Investors in India are shifting to private credit for annual yields of 12 to 14%, much higher than traditional bank deposits, though these returns come with elevated credit risks, as instruments like compulsory convertible debentures transfer credit risk directly to investors amid a lack of liquidity and transparency.
Now let's discuss another important development. Mufin Green Finance plans a management committee meeting on July 14, 2026 to approve raising funds via foreign currency bonds and private placement of non-convertible debentures. Moving to our next story, Indian Bank aims to recover up to 5,500 crores in financial year 500 crores in financial year 27 and raised $140 million in foreign currency deposits by July 9th, aiming for $2 billion by September.
Now, let's discuss another important development. L&T Finance Holdings posted a 28.7% profit increase to Rs 902.5 crores, while Avenue Supermarts reported an 11.3% profit rise to Rs 860.4 crores, with revenues up 14.9% to Rs 18,794.5 crores, reflecting steady consumer spending despite inflation. And here's another significant update. The Indian rupee is set to open weaker, trading around 95.55 to 95.60 against the US dollar, due to escalating US-Iran tensions and crude oil prices spiking to $79.28 per barrel. Public sector banks are also set to upgrade over 15,000 ATMs to cash recyclers. Specialized investment funds saw a 29.3% rise in assets under management to Rs 17,858 crores in June. And Indian investors increased their overseas trading through the India International Exchange Global Access Provider platform by 80% quarter-on-quarter, reaching approximately $1.74 billion, driven largely by interest in US technology and artificial intelligence stocks. And that wraps up today's episode. Thank you for tuning in.